Morning, everybody. I hope you're keeping safe and well. Now we've finished we're in our third week of lockdown. Hope you've enjoyed some of the sunny weather this week, but played out safely in your gardens. And it's supposed to be a lovely weekend, particularly Saturday, on our long Easter bank holiday weekend. So I hope you enjoy some more sunshine then, and also the fact that you would have hopefully some chocolate as well. So today I thought I would share with you a story that I shared with my son, and actually my mum shared with me as well when I was younger. In fact, I think her mum shared with her as well. This is a story that was written 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, by a very famous author called Beatrix Potter. Now I know one of hers is very famous now because it's been made into a film, and that's one I'm going to read you today. She had a whole series of them, and she was really fascinated with nature. She did lots of drawing. She used to write letters to people, and she'd have these little pictures of these animals. Some of those are now used in her stories. And she eventually moved to the Lake District, and in fact the National Trust has now got the house that she used to live in called Hilltop, where you can go and visit, and you can see what it was like to for her when she was living there, and see the sort of desks and things like that she wrote at. So we're going to read now the tale of Peter Rabbit. So it's all about a rabbit who basically doesn't do the right thing, really. So, okay, very famous. So these books, do you realise, have been translated into 35 languages. That's amazing, isn't it? And over 100 million of her books have been sold, which is a huge number. Huge, huge, huge number. Let's share it, shall we? So once upon a time, there were 4 little rabbits, and their names were Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Okay, and they lived with their mother in a sandbank underneath the roots of a very large fir tree. Okay. Now, my dears, said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, you may go down into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. There she's talking to, there's old Mrs. Rabbit there. She's talking to her children, so there's Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail, and there's Peter. He doesn't seem to be listening, does he? Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. So Mr. McGregor had a garden quite close by, and he grows lots and lots of vegetables. And fortunately, Peter's dad went into that garden and was caught by Mr. McGregor and was put in that pie for him to eat. Rabbit pie. So she's giving a really good warning. Don't do that because you could get in danger. Now run along, she said, and don't get into any mischief. I'm going out. Then old Mrs. Rabbit took out a basket with her umbrella, and she went in through the wood to the baker's, where she bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 currant buns. Now Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberries. There they are. They might have that to eat on their own, or they might have it with, make it into a crumble. But it's a lovely juicy fruit so you can eat. But Peter, who was very naughty, ran straight away, can you guess, to Mr. McGregor's garden. There he is doing the wrong thing, and he squeezed under the gate. First he ate some lettuces, then some French beans, and then he ate some radishes, and there he is. These are all the things that the farmer has grown, these vegetables, for him to eat. He's eating a radish there in that picture. And there on that spade, which is what the farmer used to garden, there's a robin. You can spot lots of creatures in these pictures. But then, feeling rather sick because he'd eaten so much, he went to look for some parsley to calm his tummy. There he is, he's rubbing his tummy because he feels a bit stuffed. But round the end of a cucumber frame, whom should he meet but Mr. McGregor? A cucumber frame is where cucumbers grow underneath there, that wooden structure. And there's Mr. McGregor, and he spotted Peter. This is not good. Mr. McGregor was on his hands and knees planting out young cabbages. But he jumped up and he ran after Peter, waving a rake and shouting, "Stop, thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate, which is where he needs to get out from. Remember, he squeezed under it to get in. He lost one of his shoes amongst the cabbages. There's the robin there. There's a cabbage growing. There's the robin there. There's his little boot. He's lost there. and the other amongst the potatoes. He's lost his shoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and he went faster, so that I think he might have got away altogether if he'd not, oh no, unfortunately run into a gooseberry net. There's a gooseberry net there with the fruit there growing. And he's got caught, he can't move, and he's got caught by the large buttons on his jacket. He's got a blue jacket with brass buttons, quite new. Peter gave himself up for lost, and he shed big tears. But his sobs were overheard by some friendly sparrows. Those are the little birds there, but robins but sparrows, who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. That means to have another go. Don't give up. Keep trying. A bit like we say in school, isn't it? Mr. McGregor came up with a sieve. That's a sieve you can have in the garden, which is what you use to put shaped soil through to keep the stones back. A bit like we use flour when we do cooking, don't we, at home? And he's about to put that wooden sieve on top of Peter. But Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind, and he rushed into the tool shed and jumped into a can, a watering can. It would have been a beautiful place to hide if it hadn't had so much watering. Mr. McGregor was quite sure that Peter was hidden somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a flower pot. So he's lifting all the flower pots there to see, and we can see Peter with his ears just poking out of that watering can. So Mr. McGregor hasn't spotted him yet. He began to turn over each of the flower pots carefully, looking under each one. Presently, though, Peter sneezed. Ka-choo! Mr. McGregor was after him in no time. And he tried to put his foot upon Peter to try and catch him. You see the big boot there. That wouldn't be very nice because look, it's got a hobnail there, isn't it? And a bit sticking underneath to grip in the soil. And he jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 plants, and he's tipping them over. The window was too small for Mr. McGregor, and he was tired and fed up of running after Peter, so he went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath, and he was trembling with fright. It was a close thing, but he's still not safe yet because he's still in the garden. And he hadn't the least idea which way to go to get back to that gate. Also, he was very damp with sitting in that can. After a while, he began to wander around, going lippity-lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in the wall. Oh, but it was locked. And there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she couldn't answer. She only shook her head at him, and Peter began to cry. Like he's full of despair. He thinks, I'm just never going to get there. I'm never going to get out of here. I wonder if he's going to get into trouble for losing all his clothes as well. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. McGregor filled his water cans, and a white cat was staring at some goldfish. Can you see it there? Almost motionless. There's the goldfish we can see in the pond. And there's Peter watching on. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very, very still. But now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it was best to go away without speaking to her. He'd heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny, because if the cat chases the rabbit and catches it, the cat will try and eat it. Still not safe. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. A hoe is something you use to move the soil around. Scritch, scritch, and it gets weeds out. Scratch, scratch. Peter scuttered underneath the bushes because he thinks, that must be Mr. McGregor again. I need to steer clear of him. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and peeped over. There he is. He's peeping over, and there's the wheelbarrow. You can see Mr. McGregor, who there he is with his hoe, pulling all the weeds around his vegetables, and over past. You can see the gate. That's the gate into the woods where he needs to get to. He's got to go past Mr. McGregor. The first thing he saw was Mr. McGregor hoeing onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was the gate. Peter got down very quietly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could along a straight walk behind some blackcurrant bushes. But Mr. McGregor caught sight of him at the corner and gave chase. Look at him with his rake in his hand, running after him. There those birds again watching. But Peter didn't care. He slipped underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Mr. McGregor hung up the little jacket and the shoes for a scarecrow to... There we go, can you see? That's his jacket. Those are his shoes there, and it's hung up there. Like it's a pretend person to warn off other things not to go there. To try and frighten the blackbirds. So it's a pretend person, because the blackbirds unfortunately eat all the seeds before the plants grow bigger. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. Back home to where he feels safe. There are his brothers, his sisters there, aren't they? Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail. He was so tired, because he'd be exhausted after that, wouldn't he? That he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he'd done with his clothes. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. That's in 2 weeks. He's lost 2 pairs of full sets of clothes. He does look exhausted though, doesn't he? I'm sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. 1 tablespoon to be taken at bedtime. There he is in his bed. You see, he's had to have some medicine that his mum's made. But Flopsy, Mopsy and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberries for their supper. They've done the right thing, haven't they? The end. I hope you enjoyed that. So there's a whole series of these. There's 23 books in this series. So we can choose a couple more of them. We've got Jemima Puddle Duck, and we've got Miss Tiggy Winkle, and all those sorts of things. So various creatures who come to life in these books. So once again, I hope you stay safe. Hope you're keeping up with your work. Things are going well in your household. We're doing a great job at staying inside, and hopefully we'll get through this crisis. Come out the other side. Come back to school, and I think we're back to normal again. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.